So I was featured on Let's Read, one of his new videos, and I got a lot of criticism for my voice, which is fucked up because I have a sinus infection right now. So my apologies for the quality of my voice throughout this video, but I hope you enjoy it anyways. Peace. This story takes place in America in the early 1980s, before my mom was married. She lived with her sister's husband, and their 3 dogs. My mother's family is from Ireland, and so is my aunt's husband. His sister, Mary Katherine, was visiting the States for a few weeks. During the daytime, everyone worked, so it was just Mary Katherine at home with the 3 dogs. A German Shepherd / Standard Collie mix, a Shepherd / Husky, and a massive, illegal wolf mix. All 3 dogs were big hams, but fiercely protective. One day my mom came home from work to find the lights turned out, shades drawn, and doors locked. She thought maybe Mary Katherine had gone for a walk, but when she opened the door, she met Mary, standing white as a sheet, with a knife in her hand.
"Oh, Patsy, something terrible happened today. We had a visitor,"
she spoke. Around noon, Mary was in the kitchen fixing herself some lunch when she heard the front door open. The dogs went crazy, howling and barking. The dogs never barked at family, so she went to go see who it was. It was a man she had never seen before, let himself in through the unlocked door and was sitting on the couch. The dogs stood on the staircase, landing adjacent to the couch, and refused to go near him. Before she could ask who he was, he said,
"I'm very thirsty. Could you give me a drink of water?"
She figured he was just a neighbor, or maybe his car had broken down. The house was situated in a remote and relatively safe area, so she didn't think of him as a threat. Plus, she was from a small village where everyone knew everyone, and unexpected guests were the norm for her. He sat on the sofa so casually, like he was waiting for someone. She said hello and went in the kitchen to get him a drink, ushering the dogs in with her to avoid making a fuss. They were very angry, growling at the man with their hackles raised, but they hadn't approached him. She had her back turned at the kitchen sink, filling up a glass for him, when she felt a hand clap on her shoulder.
"Are you waiting for someone? The family won't be home for a while,"
Mary said nervously.
"I know they won't,"
the man replied coldly. Mary whipped around to face the man.
"You know, you're a good-looking woman, and I'm a good-looking man,"
he said. The dogs backed up against her, barking and howling. She reached behind her to grab a knife off the block in one hand and the glass of water in the other.
"I think you should drink your water and be on your way."
The man stood and drank the water, while Mary stood there with the dogs. She watched him place the glass on the table, open the door, go down the steps, and walk into the street, until she lost sight of him. Once everyone was home, my mother called the police. There wasn't much they could do since Mary wasn't hurt, and they hadn't heard any reports of break-ins or assaults lately, so they just took a statement. My family always tells the story as an example of how Irish people tend to downplay unfortunate situations almost humorously. The Irish comedian Tommy Tiernan calls this a fundamental darkness that the Irish people have. We laugh at the blackness in life, but it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. Had that man been watching the house to know everyone's schedule, knew that Mary wasn't from around here, and was going to use that to take advantage of her? Or was he just a wandering creep looking for unlocked doors? If anyone would like to use this video, let me know. I would love to listen and support your channel. Well, thank you. Yeah.
I think it's good.
Oh my God. I know they won't, the man replied coldly. Fuck. I know they won't, the man replied. Fuck! I can't say words. I know they won't. No. My wife and I are outdoorsy people. Our first date was a picnic in the middle of the woods. Our wedding was in my parents' backyard, which is almost surrounded by forests. This matters because this story begins and ends in the forest. Late summer of 2014. It was one of those moist kind of summer days. My lady and I went on our weekly stroll, or hike, through a forest near our home. About 3/4 of the way through, she noticed a pile of hair, wire-like hair. Of course we didn't touch it, but we didn't know what to do. It was clearly hair from a person's head, not an animal or anything. But other than that, we didn't think much of it. The next week we went back, but this time the hair was gone. In place was a letter. Clearly had just been left there, as if somebody was waiting for us. The letter read, "Why did you ignore me?" I told my wife it was just trash, but obviously she didn't believe me, but she knew it would be better off. Early of summer 2015. Nothing happened ever since. I wish it would have stayed that way. We walked around the same area that we made our discovery, but we never really talked about it. If it did come up, we would joke about it, saying that Brittany was at it again or something. Anyway, at this time, my wife is about 4.5 months pregnant, so we took an easier path just to walk. About halfway through our walk, I heard a whimper to my right. I saw that there was a woman, about in her late 40s. She was dirty, as if she rolled in dirt for days. She was holding onto a tree, digging her mostly broken fingernails. I took my wife's arm and led her behind myself and asked, "Ma'am, are you alright? Do you need me to call someone for you?" She replied, but I couldn't make out what she had said. "Pardon?"
Why? Why?
She started vomiting what looked like black mud. I motioned to my wife to start walking away while I stayed back to make sure she didn't follow us or chase us. She didn't hesitate to start walking off. Knowing she was pregnant was most likely the reason, but when the woman noticed my wife walking away, she charged at us. Unknowing of her strength, I didn't prepare to be pushed down. I fell on my back and she was on top of me. She tried to scramble up while staring in the direction my wife was. I tightly wrapped my arms around this woman and she started vomiting onto my forehead and up. She tried screaming, but she would just choke. Once she had finished, she screamed,
Why did you ignore me?
but I was too engaged in the idea of how the fuck am I going to get out of this. I started to wiggle to try to get myself on top of her. Once I did, what's next? Stand up, shake hands, and leave? No, my face was right on her upper breasts, so I couldn't just whip my face into hers. I got my arms out from under her, and I used them to hold her arms down, and I lifted myself, almost like a push-up. Then I pressed my foot-filled boot onto her stomach, then I mentally count to 5. Then I accidentally kick her chin with my other foot, and I take off. I look back at her, gripping her jaw and reaching for me while screaming. It's amazing how fast a person can run when they feel like they're going to die. I dodged every rock and tree. I even went off the trail just in case she ever got up and ran for me. Eventually, after what I felt like hours, I'm at the edge of the forest and the side of the road. Our town is half forest. I looked to the left, no wife to be seen. I ran to our car and she wasn't anywhere to be seen. I leaped into the driver's seat and started screaming and pulling at my face, punching the wheel and stomped. Then I heard crying and screaming in the back. It was the love of my life. Laying on the seats, holding her ears, knees to her chest, or as close as they could get. I pulled myself back there so fast that I don't even remember. And I hugged her so fucking tight, and she smacked me off because of the vomit on my head. Side note, we did not call the police because this experience caused my wife so much stress and sleepless nights that she had a miscarriage, and we chose to forget. We do not go on walks that aren't by roads or buildings. It's been 5 years since then, and we have 2 beautiful boys. We never saw this woman again, and I hope we never do.